So this is a picture of one of the OEM exhaust manifolds that the 3RZ, at least in Australia, came with. So I got a second-hand one off Gumtree for about 50 bucks, I think, and I had a plan to cut all the runners off and flip them 90 degrees so that I could stick my turbo on top of it. Alright guys, so for welding my manifold, what I'm going to do is I'm going to be MIGging around the outside, like roughly, and then running over it with my TIG so that the welds will sink in and hopefully be pretty strong. People will argue about this will overheat the welds and make them want to crack down in the future. Probably yes, but at the same time I want this to look alright and function okay, I guess. I don't know. I've read online you can do it, so yeah, I'll just MIG around the outsides pretty roughly and yeah, just TIG over the tops of them. So I'm going to do the runners separately so I'll be able to get my TIG torch in around. Might be a bit difficult around here, but who cares, we'll see how it goes. Alright, so I've got my TIG torch hooked up. I'm just going to clean up these welds a little bit more and then see if I can run a bead or two over the top of them. Make sure you move your air compressor far away, or far-ish away from where you're working, because if you add heat to compressed air, it's going to expand tons and possibly blow shit up, so be very careful. You can watch videos of people welding onto rims that have tyres and air on them, and they just fucking explode. It's terrifying. Anyway, I'm going to run over the part that I was mounting up just before, and fingers crossed it should be good. I'm going to move my earth over to my wastegate, and hopefully I'll get a pretty good bond. Okay, so I've got my tungsten sharpened up. Just put points on them. I don't have a bench grinder to do it on. I do it on an angle grinder with a grinding disc. It's a bit ghetto, but it works. So yeah, let's get back to welding.
Flex, let's get it. Mamacita que te como entera, que en vuelo si te lleva cosa de Marbella. No veno coca, no trabajo en favela. Malik, Luli, Carmen, Lucía o Isabela. Con los ojos me pelo en las estrellas. Y ainda mami, por favor, pase esa botella. Pasa la botella, por favor, que tengo que ir a visitar el gran patrón. El gran patrón, que todo el 1-2 como era Sammy Sosa. No lo compliques, no, que todo esa mierda no era cosa religiosa. Yeah, yeah, we some blasters. All up on your shorty like I was a fucking pop star. No de pobreza, I'll show you where the cops are. We can buy some Gucci and I'll show you where the shops are. You should know my name by now, 2 songs deep, but you know I can't slow down. All these fans either real or just fake, like clowns. At this stage of the game it's just drip or drown. Please remember this is just a joke, calm down. So mommy, I'll give enough or you can't turn down. We went just in tracksuits and we shut down La Fiesta. So go for a man chillin' like back just like Nesta. Man's acting wild for the chance to impress her. Didn't know my boy was the one that just left her. The one that just left her, what a shame. Balling out on 2K, Stricken Hall of Fame. Nico and Nicholas, I don't even know my name. So I had to hop on a rhythm. 2 toes down, had to grind on this rhythm. Take a step back to think and forget him. Put my head down, put in work and I live in. Yeah, with some blasters all up on your shoulder like I was a fucking pop star. The leopard red thoughts will show you where the cups are. We can buy some Gucci and I'll show you where the shops are. Yeah, yeah, with some blasters all up on your shoulder like I was a fucking pop star. The leopard red thoughts will show you where the cups are. We can buy some Gucci and I'll show you where the shops are. The one that just left her. The one that just left her. What a shame. The one that just left her. What a shame. Balling out on 2K, stricken Hall of Fame. Nickel or Nicholas, I don't even know my name.
Okay, so with a carbide burr I've taken all of the really high spots off the inside of the manifold here. I'm still torn as to whether I'm going to run around each inside there with my TIG torch to clean it up. I probably won't bother. I think it should be okay. Looks okay. But anyway, so what I've just done now is cut the 90 degree or almost 90 degree section off this pipe here. And so now, hang on, bear with me. When the manifold sits down in here like that, I'll hopefully stick that on there like that. I'll maybe bring it to the side a bit like this, have a straight section here, and then sit the turbo this way, and then stick the wastegate up like that. Okay, so I've got the pipe sat on there, and I've put little paint marker marks around in 3 spots so I know where it is. So now I'm going to pull this off and grind down this one a little bit so that this will sit nice and flush. And then I'm probably going to weld one side of it and hit this side in with a hammer because it's slightly too big for this diameter here. Then after that's done, I'll sort out this pipe and yeah, probably get a merge to it and we'll see how it goes from there. Looks pretty good. I'll clean that up with the carbide burr and then weld it on. So now that it's daytime and I'm not going to piss off the neighbours to all ends of the earth, I'm going to start angle grinding. I'm going to cut these nuts I've got to, or cut these bolts I've got to length for the turbocharger exhaust housing to the T3 flange. And then once that's cut, I'll be able to mock it up onto how it's going to sit on my manifold. And then I'm going to tack weld it on, see how it looks, and then I'll have to drill holes and suss my wastegate port. But yeah, it's all coming together. I don't know if I'll film much of the welding because that takes up a lot on the SD card, so I'll just film the main events of it. Okay, so I've got the flange bolted to the turbo and I just mocked it up in the engine bay. So it sits a little too far this way and a little too far of a straight angle. I want it to sit sort of at a slant so that the pipe can, or the dump pipe can go back and down inside the engine bay there. So I've just pulled the manifold off now and I'm just going to take tiny slices off and see if I can get it to where I like it. And also to get the merge to the same size as the T3 flange. I'm just going to sort of beat it with a hammer, sort of gently. Hopefully it won't crack because I've heated it up tons, but we'll see. It should clear the bonnet hopefully. If not, I'll have to cut some of the webbing out. But that won't be the end of the world. Okay, so I've got it to roughly the same size. I've cut a little section out of there because there was a bit of a dag that hung down, which would affect my flow a tiny bit. So I've bashed it with a hammer to get it to the rough size of a T3, and I'm going to weld a little nick on there so that it fits up nice. And then yeah, my wastegate's probably going to dump out of here in the same direction of flow so that it's pretty good. But yeah, that's where it is at. So I'll tack the flange on and see if I can sit the turbo on as a mock-up. The turbo is fabbed up. I'm absolutely loving how that looks. The coolest part is the bonnet is going to close. It may be affected by if I have a 90-degree bend off the front, 4-inch to 3-inch, so I can have an air filter. But I can actually stick an air filter straight on here if I have the bonnet off, which is wicked. So yeah, anyway, that's the stage where it's at. There's enough room to make a dump pipe once I pull the original exhaust out down there. So yeah, I'm gonna take a break, get some food in me, and maybe even go out to the shops and buy a few relays and things that I need for the ECU setup. The only thing I may run into issues with is the coolant feed for the engine block. So what I have the plan to do is put a nick in it like this, so that I can then, leave enough meat here so that I can pretty much put a 90 degrees straight off it that goes up to the radiator here. I'll put some kind of heat shield in between here, and I'll also wrap the exhaust in some ceramic tape, whatever. And yeah, the only other thing I have to do now is sort out where my wastegate is going to sit. So I've got my wastegate here. I think this is a 44mm knockoff of a tile. But anyway, I think I'm going to sit it back at this angle like this, just so I can sort of vent it down back there. But also, if I ever mob it with the bonnet off, I'll be able to do a fat 90-degree bend like that, and then just have a 90 degrees straight up, which will be sick. And yeah, so I think I'll mount it there, and that means that I won't have to fool around with the cut that I've already got in the manifold. I'll just be able to sort of widen that gap up a bit. It looks pretty disgusting, but I've actually managed to cut this so it sits up almost flush around the wastegate dump area. Don't know how well you can see that, but it's flush enough for what I need to do, which is MIG weld it. And yeah, that'll mean it's pretty good. So I wanted to sort of keep it so that it would be in the same direction of flow. That's why there's the sort of the cut to it like that. Ideally you'd sort of want it facing more up the angle that this pipe is here, so that it would gain more of the flow, but it's still going to be fine. It's still facing up and enough of the exhaust gas is going to go through it I may see a little bit of boost creep, but in the end I'll just run a smaller wastegate spring and use the electronic boost controller. Got my wastegate port marked out. I'm just going to put one mark so I know where to line it up on the flange itself. And then will come the hardest bit of cutting into your nice looking manifold. Then again, mine's not that nice looking, so who cares? Right, so I've cleaned out the holes and the edges of the wastegate, and it sits on there pretty well. See if I can get it to stay there. So yeah, it sits on there quite well. So I'll weld it on now, and then after I'll be able to see how it looks in the engine bay and put some marks on it and cut it to length where I want the wastegate to sit. Okay, so the light's fading a bit because it's getting kind of late, but I've just finished welding the wastegate dump on. I'm kind of disappointed because I ran out of TIG rod, so I had to start using my gasless MIG, which does a reasonable job. It's a bit spattery though and not really what I wanted, but it's going to get wrapped in exhaust tape anyway. So yeah, what I'm doing now is just running a tap down each hole because a little bit of spatter gone in it, and then I'll grind out the inside with my deburring tool, and yeah, I'll mark up where I want my wastegate to sit. Okay, so I've got my wastegate mounted on there. So I welded, found one more TIG rod and I managed to weld the flange on. So that's wicked, and it's actually sitting almost perfectly straight. Well, a tiny angle on it, which is pretty cool because I sort of changed the angle in there as it welded. But yeah, so the exhaust should be all done. I just have to plug the bung, the hole in the side just down there where the EGR valve was originally. And as well as that now, the hot side of the engine should be almost done, and I just need to make a dump and whack a wideband bung in that, and then that should be good. Okay guys, so I've got my manifold finished up. It's a bit yuck in certain places, but I'm going to wrap it in exhaust tape. It should do the job. I've welded up the bung on the side, pretty disgusting. I've only got my gasless MIG now, but I thought I'd just take this as an opportunity to show you the scavenging effect I talked about. Because I've used the runners from the original exhaust, which have a calculated length, the exhaust pulses out of this one here, so if it's cylinder number 2, the exhaust pulse will go to here, and as it's going there, cylinder 3 or 5 probably. I don't know the exact firing order or pattern, but yeah, the pulse going up here will scavenge this pulse out of here, and I can show you that. So if I move that there, you'll see vacuum in this one with this tissue. See that? So I'm about to put my wastegate on now. Make sure you've got your wastegate seat when you put it on. It's got a little taper in there which seals on the taper on the plunger here. If you want, sometimes they don't seal properly and you'll have a bit of an exhaust leak, so what you can do is put some really fine lapping paste on there and just give it a spin on the face there a little bit to seat it. Usually they're alright and they'll seat themselves a bit better as you use them. But anyway, yeah, I'm going to whack this on with a V-band and clock it straight backwards. So yeah, it's all come together. It's all bolted on tightly now. Then I can sort out my oil feed and oil return for the turbo. Okay guys, it's coming up to the end of Sunday, 5:42. I've got my dump pipe with my wideband gauge hooked up. So the hot side should almost be complete now. All I need to do is sort out my oil drain and then go and buy a fitting for the oil feed, which is a M12 by 1.25 to -4AN, I believe. And then this oil drain bung that was on my original turbo, which was a 3076 as well. This one's oil drain is a bit wider, so I don't know what's going on there. It has a different center cartridge, so yeah, I'm going to grind these out, these grooves here, and then hopefully that bolts up. I'll still have to try and eyeball it so to make sure it's dead straight so that oil goes through it fine, but apart from that, the hot side should almost be done. I've bought a new radiator hose which should just go straight from here, then do a 90 there. I'll put a little nick like that so it still flows. And then I've bought all of the new fuel hoses that are the right size so I don't break my wrist trying to put it on. So I'll get all of them put on with hose clamps and that. and then once that's done, I'll be able to either sort out my coils mounting or do the ECU stuff first.